What is up, Cabbage Crew? This is Matt and John. We are reviewing episode 2 of the live-action Netflix series of Avatar the Last Airbender. A lot of changes in this episode. So, I mean, the whole thing. I mean, I told you at the end of the last episode that there was going to be episode 2 was going to have a lot of changes just because of the nature of the story. So let's just get started. So first things first. The first scene is which I think you wanted to see from Zuko, which is a little bit more of a fiery temper personality from Zuko throughout the whole episode. Which I like what they did with Zuko for the most part in this episode. They very much hinted a little bit more the fact that he had to be the one to catch Aang due to something. We don't know if it's his father's honor. We don't know why, but he seems more like he has to be the one that catches him. No one else can catch him, which, okay, is great. So let's just jump into it, man. You were right. They started the episode off back at the Air Temple, and they found Momo. So, I mean, what was your thoughts of Momo and then finding him and everything like that?
I was right. He was looking through a bag.
He was looking through a bag. Do you like the design of Momo?
Oh, yeah. I think most of the CGI in the majority of the shows is good. I approve. And I just, yeah. So
especially the animals. The animals are solid, good.
Yeah, in terms of answering your question, I liked how they found Momo because I was right.
Yeah. So Zuko and Iroh go to the port, not due to the ship being wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like this episode, we're going to bring this up a lot, so I'll just bring it up now. They did it a little bit in episode 1, but I could understand certain things and why they did it. This episode, they do it way more. They change things for the sake of changing them, but not to cut time. I can understand them changing something to cut time, or to be like, hey, we have 2 or 3 things from the original show. We're going to put them together into one concept, like the scrolls. I'm okay with her finding the scrolls from her grandmother because that makes sense. And they're not going to devote an entire episode of pirates running around for them to get the scroll. I get that. But there's certain things that they added that it just doesn't make sense. And it starts with the Zhao situation, like why they went to the port. They could have easily had, at the end of the last episode, them getting away due to the fireball going at them, Aang hitting it, it hits some ice, and they have a damaged ship. So what do? They go to a nearby port to get it fixed.
Right.
And that could introduce Zhao, and it's like, why do you have a destroyed ship? He does some digging, he finds out the Avatar is there. They completely do that, completely change all of that around. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I thought that scene when they went to the port was similar to the waterbending scroll episode, where they had to go to port because Iroh lost his lotus tile.
Right.
So this one, it was just like, Zuko, look at this fish. It's a what? Like, right. I just got that sense of like they were trying to do like a waterbending scroll episode, going to a Fire Nation port. Even though I believe in the waterbending scrolls is an Earth Kingdom town.
Yeah.
But like they try to combine They try, in my opinion, they try to combine the waterbending scroll episode in terms of like going to the market, and then the episode 3, Southern Air Temple, when they're at the Fire Nation port. They try to combine the two things, and I thought it went fine. I actually got more of an Iroh character building here a little bit, which is nice. So.
Yeah, definitely. With Iroh, going to Iroh really quick. it very much seems like, again, he's trying to like do the right thing for Zuko, because he part of him is like, I would love to see my nephew happy and catching him, but it is interesting how Iroh was the one that was like, let's go to Zhao and or let's go to find some more information. Like, that's all new. Like, let's go get more information, and then they run into Zhao that way, and Zhao having like an idea, a clue where that maybe they're lying, or he's getting some, I guess, sense that they're not telling the full truth of their story. Which I just felt like that was kind of off, and that whole like, oh yeah, we're looking for shark squids or whatever animal that we made up for this show, because that definitely was not in the old show, in the anime. So I just felt like that again. It's like they could have just kept it the way it was. Like, even if it wasn't a damaged ship, even if it was just, we're trying to get some maps. We're trying to get some maps. We're a little bit lost. It feels like we're going in circles. Hey, do you have some maps? Oh, yeah, sure. You stay here, have some tea, hang out for a little bit. Zhao comes back up. Yeah, I talked to the crew. We ended up finding your crew. And even if one of the crew was like there and actually slipped it. You know what I mean? And it's like, and now all of a sudden there's just like butting heads. I think that could have probably even been better. It doesn't, at least it seems like, and we'll get to this way later, but it seems like they're going a different route completely with Zhao, and his story arc and his character altogether is very different. But again, we'll get to that towards the end, because that happens at the end. So let's talk about Kyoshi Island. We'll get to the other stuff, but we'll talk about Kyoshi Island, them getting there, meeting Suki, meeting Kyoshi warriors.
You just want to know like my take on that?
Yeah, or anything you have to say about that, or anything else that you want to bring up.
So with Zhao, I was just disappointed again. I mean, it was just like, he was just talking to one of his guards about and going into Zuko's ship, and there was no conniving, like where in the anime it's like, oh, so you told the crew to interrogate Zuko's ship in the anime, and there's no one-liners, there's just no cold one-liners for Zhao's character, and I just don't know what they're doing. I really don't know what they're doing here.
In the anime, Zhao knew who Zuko was, and almost pitied him, and it was like, I'm better than you. You're the banished prince. It's like he didn't even know who he was. He was like, they didn't know who Zhao was. And maybe they didn't know Zhao that well, or maybe they didn't know him at all in the anime before they met. I kind of forgot, to be honest. But there was that we are on the same team, but we are enemies in the sense of what our goals are. And I didn't get that sense here. No. And we'll talk about it again more at the end, but of how they ended it with them joining. But so wasn't a huge fan of that either. And then the Kyoshi Island stuff. You can go ahead if you want to talk a little bit about Kyoshi Island.
So far, I mean, I will say each aspect of the Avatar universe and their world building and us showing each place is a near 10. Like, I thought they displayed Kyoshi Island. Like, I was watching the anime.
You think so?
Oh yeah, the layout in the street, 100%.
Yeah.
And like when they were riding with Appa, you can see Kyoshi Island from the aerial view, and I thought it looked pretty realistic. I thought the Kyoshi warriors were good. They adapted them pretty well. It was interesting to see Suki's mom, who never showed up in the anime, as a leading council member in Kyoshi Island. And who was the leader of Kyoshi Island in the anime? It was like
it was just an older gentleman who, I don't know if he was the father of anybody, but he kind of just, it almost like he was like the mayor of the town or something.
They mentioned his name. It was like,
oh, in the anime, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he had a blue jacket on.
Yeah.
Blue thing on. I never knew. I don't remember his name, but yeah, I mean, they changed that, which is, it's fine. It's fine. They did that, and Kiyoshi's the leader, and she's also the daughter of kind of the person who runs the town. I was okay with that.
Right. Yeah, me too. I liked I did like initially I didn't, but as it came about, Suki and Sokka's relationship, their entanglement, and how that happened. I did not like the ambush scene. It looked so fake. It was like, and I was like, what's going on here? It looked bad. But anyway, I know I'm going off different things here, but the Suki and Sokka relationship, I thought overall was pretty good, and how they adapted that. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, the ambush scene was bad. That whole scene was horrible. Like, I mean, we'll talk about this in a minute, but the Kyoshi eyes going to Aang and how they revealed all. I literally paused and I was like, "Oh no," because that was the first time where I sat there and said, "This is cheesy. Like, this is bad." Because all of episode 1, there was not one scene where I was like, "This is bad." Like, there was a couple of cringy dialogue stuff, but I'm talking an entire scene being like, "This scene sucked." That was from when they landed to them looking at a temple to then the ambush scene, and then they were like, we would have a sign or something, and it was just like, like the music was horrible. I was like, this music isn't Avatar the Last Airbender. Like, there was just this made up music that was never in that, like, never. They could have pulled any, because there's so much different music from Avatar that they're not going to use because it's like certain things, you know. They could have easily, they could have pulled the music when we see Kyoshi in season 2, the Avatar Day episode.
Right.
You know, where it's a quick little thing. It's like they could have done something. So, yeah, that whole ambush scene was horrible. I agree with you. I think the Suki Sokka. I've never said their names like back to back like that, like Suki Sokka. That relationship started a little rough. I'm not gonna lie, that was rough, buddy.
Yeah.
But by the, you know what I mean? I was not into like some of the training stuff. I liked it at the beginning, then it got rocky, a little rough, and then towards the end, I started liking it.
Yeah. Also, I just remembered the leader. His name is Oyaji.
Oyaji, okay.
Oyaji.
I could never have guessed that. So yeah, I liked again Sokka, probably one of the better parts of the episode. I like where they're going with Suki. I mean, we probably won't see her again in this season. She pops up a little bit in season 2, and then she becomes a main member in season 3. Right. So I mean, maybe she will pop up again. You never know. But yeah, I mean, I was not a fan of that sequence. Also, somewhere I think roughly around, I think it was the first time in this sequence when they were getting captured, Momo made a noise, a monkey noise, and I was like, what? I never heard. I was like, oh, that's not Momo. Momo isn't a monkey. I mean, like, he's a lemur. He's a flying lemur. He just made this like monkey noise. I heard it one other time. But I was like, that's very interesting that they made like him into a monkey or noise, which I whatever. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room. The big elephant in the room.
Yes.
Do you know what that elephant is?
I think I do know what the elephant is.
Kyoshi.
Yeah.
I had a fear they were going to do this because Kyoshi is a fan favorite. Stories do this all the time when there's a fan favorite that has a little bit of sprinkled in, but you love it because of the mystery and it's like when you see that character, even if it's once every 10 episodes, you're like, oh, I love when they pop up. They made Kyoshi such a focus point of this episode and did not have. They made Roku's entire story Kyoshi. I know you love Roku, so let's. How do you feel about that?
So I was actually thinking about it, right? And I obviously like the show's just pro Kyoshi. I mean, that's just the whole. That's what this episode declared.
Yes.
And obviously,
Yes.
I'm upset with that because again, it changes the story. And like,
Yes.
does
In a big
does
way.
Roku even exist? Is he even an avatar at this point? Like we
saw him for a second, yes, but like, yeah,
and so like I'm upset at that because of like just me being me. I don't like how they just put this important character aside, but the way that they did it, I thought was pretty okay. Like,
really,
yeah, I might have disagreed with like the change, but the way they did it, I was like, at least it was okay. In the sense of like, they were borrowing aspects from the Winter Solstice episode in the anime. But apparently Zozen's comet's not a thing, and she just explains that the water tribe's gonna get attacked.
Well, I think they're talking about more of the siege of the North, like
right. But it was a very Winter Solstice type meeting, like in anime.
They combined, like you said, Zuko's story combined the scroll, a little bit of the scroll. I think this was like a combination of like Kyoshi Island, the waterbending scroll,
Winter Solstice,
the Winter Solstice episode, and maybe you can make an argument of a little bit of like hints of like other episodes here and there. But those are like the 3 or 4 main things they took.
Right.
To be honest, man, I hated it. I hated that whole part of them taking Roku's part. Yeah, because again, I go back to like kind of the main thing of you have to hit the checkpoints correct. Like you have to hit all the points that makes Avatar. You can make a strong argument. Season 1, Roku is the 6th, 7th. Like you have Aang, Katara, Sokka, you have Zuko and Iroh. You can make maybe Zhao, but you can make an argument Roku is the 6th main. Like take away those 5 main characters, and those are all main characters. If you were to ask me who is after the first 5 main characters of the series in season 1, who would be the next most important character? Zhao's a very good argument. Roku's the other argument. And his character, it doesn't even seem like it's going to exist. Now, maybe he is the one that eventually will talk to Aang next. It looks like there's going to be a spirit episode.
Right.
But what else is there to say? We already know there's a comet that comes. So that whole vision of him getting the vision of the comet, and then Roku explains to him about the comet. We already know that's coming. Where he kind of talks to him about the Avatar state in season 2. That's gone because that's what Kyoshi does. But what is there for Roku to explain to Aang to be his guide and to be his mentor through this season? Because very much Roku is the mentor and the one that kind of explains to the audience some points about the story that we're filling in.
Right.
That role's gone. So
I agree with you. I mean, that's why I said like I hate it because where's Roku? Like that's his job. But I'm just reiterating that the way that they did it, I wasn't upset with how they did it because you're just replacing one avatar with the other, and so I didn't think it was too different in how they handled it, especially how Kyoshi appeared, just like how in the anime Roku appears at the Fire Temple. So
yeah, but I don't like how Kyoshi fought. Like we never saw any of the avatars take over Aang and fight longer than like 3 seconds. Like Roku took over, and that was during the winter solstice. Like they took over his body during the winter solstice because it's like I'm watching that as a first timer, and the thing I thought 100%, I'm like, whoa. It seems like there's no reason why Aang, besides him just talking to her next to the temple, why can't Kyoshi just take over Aang's body?
Right. I agree with you.
And be like, it's like, let's trick the Fire Lord first, somehow get it coming over here, and then just use Kyoshi to win this thing. Or why don't, you know what I mean? Like, why? So that upset me because I was like, the only reason why he was able to talk to Roku was because of the winter solstice. And that was explaining a lot of things dump. Like they tease things like the comet. It's like, what's that vision mean? They tease things like the spirit world. And now those things are just getting thrown to us on the first 2 episodes. And it's like, again, Roku's character and his whole reasoning for his character is now gone because they've already used the reason he's there on other characters. And the whole idea of connecting the spirits seems like it's now these temples they have to go to. Didn't like it.
I agree in the principle aspect of things with what you're saying with like there's no like in the anime you needed the winter solstice to explain where in here you needed just Kyoshi just taking over Rain's body like on principle I agree with you. I'm just saying take that out. It was pretty good. Just because you're just replacing one avatar with another one in terms of you're replacing Roku with Kyoshi, even though I disagree with it and it doesn't make sense. At least they did it well enough.
Yeah. So, guy going back to the island aspect of it, and the leader of the mother being the leader. Another interesting thing, another big difference. And again, I think that a lot of this has to do with like the themes of different things. Kyoshi Island like did not want Aang there, where in the show they embraced Aang and they loved the idea that he was back and they repainted a Kyoshi Island or a Kyoshi statue and all those different things. And so this time they were like, we don't want him to be here. And they're almost like afraid to be in the war and all that. They changed all of that. I do think it would have been interesting if they looked at the statue or the temple and they were like, you could tell it was faded and it was never painted. And then at the end of the episode, when they had hope again, they could have painted it again. That would have been like a good symbol. But okay, just like they did in the anime. And I also in the anime, because they liked Aang and they wanted to embrace him and they liked the idea of him being there. Aang knew I have to leave here to get the enemies to leave too. And that kind of started the journey of we got to jump town to town. We can never stay anywhere too long, which is why they were jumping town to town episodically, meeting new characters. And so very different. Very different.
It's been completely different. And I'm just not liking where it's going. I will agree that, or not necessarily agree, but I think this was a better episode than the first one in my opinion.
I think so.
Yeah.
The only positive thing about this episode, in my opinion, to be truly honest, was some of the Suki Sokka stuff. And I'm trying to think of some of the things I liked a lot. A lot of things they just, again, added the flash forward. Oh, the water trine's going to get attacked. Why? They're already going there. Why did we even need a name? Why did they not even need to exist? That never happened before. The vision of the northern temple northern water tribe being attacked like that didn't need to be needed. That wasn't needed. There's just so many things that they added for no reason.
Like I'm not saying it was a great episode. I'm just saying it was better. So like first one I gave like a 1.75. This is like a 2.25.
You would give this a 2.25?
Yeah, something like that.
I would give this a 1.5. I didn't like this episode. Like if you were to say 3 is a meh.
Yeah,
I think this is worse than that. I think that I would give it. This is a bad. If I was a Rotten Tomatoes scorer, I would give episode 1 a good score. I was like, okay, there's some good things about it. Some bad dialogue, but okay. This episode to me didn't make sense. I watched this. I'm like, they're taking things that don't. There's no reason to take away stuff. There's no reason why they added stuff. Again, dialogue was a little better, but that's because again they weren't really explaining. Like there's so much explaining in episode 1. I could see why some of it was just not great.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the real quick, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then at the end, Zhao being like, I'm going to join you, Zuko. Let's do this together. What? You know, so it's like, I get it. He's going to backstab him because he's actually in cahoots with the Fire Lord. But, like, that's not needed. Like, them two could have been racing just like in season 1. They're racing to get Aang.
Mm-hmm.
Zhao gets him first, and then Zuko, he's the blue spirit, and lets him free. Obviously, that's all going to change. But I have a feeling they're going to catch him. And they're going to be in cahoots, and then Zuko's going to find out he's actually in cahoots with his father, and so he frees him. I think that's what's going to end up happening.
That's a good prediction, I think.
Yeah, not too happy. That weird energy ball that Kyoshi like formed and threw into Aang, and then she became Aang was weird too. 1 second. And not to jump too much around here, we're going to go backwards a little bit. What did you think about the Kyoshi fighting? When you got to see them fight some of the Fire Nation warriors.
I loved their fans. I thought they were really cool. The way that it reminded me of just Sokka's boomerang, just slicing all those pumpkins or whatever they were. I was like, that's pretty neat. And obviously, if you're comparing it to the anime, right? Like in the anime, they did like Zuko destroys them, destroys the Kyoshi warriors. Where in this one's like they hold their own, and
Zhao,
they hold their own, and like you can make an argument that they ultimately like win the battle at the end of the day. But I'm not going to. I'm not going to. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm not going to nitpick that, even though I've been nitpicking a lot of other things.
I like them. Yeah, I like them too. I liked how they fought, and
yeah,
that seems fine. I liked Sokka fighting with them. I thought the fighting sequences were fine here.
Yeah.
The Kyoshi jumping in and going into the Avatar safe, that kind of was too much to me. But you know, it is what it is. Like, now we like, you know, it's like, okay, that never again. That's just like that never happened in the anime. Why are you adding it? There's just no reason to add Kyoshi fighting in episode 2 of like. We didn't see Aang as a full realized Avatar. We did not see a full realized Avatar fight and being like, holy, blowing our mind until the last episode. We saw Roku a little bit, but like that right there, what I saw with Kyoshi in episode 2 is what Aang is in the season finale. And like, we don't really see that until then. Like,
that's a good argument.
You have to slowly get us into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's just like they gave us a tease of it, which is cool, I guess. But at the same time, like I could see where the writers are like, let's do this so they can see what it's going to look like. But it's like there's something about the innocence of season 1 where Katara could barely know how to water bend. Aang could only know how to air bend. Sokka was more goofy and less of a leader, but he was like a wannabe leader. They almost didn't trust his leadership skills, but they were like, well, you are all we got, you know. And it's like it was kind of more of a goofier. And I get they don't want to be goofy, but like there's an innocence that's now gone because like we now seen Aang getting taken over in the Avatar as the Avatar, and this episode really made me like not like what I'm watching. Like I walked out of episode 1 being like, actually not bad. I walked out of this being nervous for episode 3. Which is the Boomy episode, which the trailers have not helped Boomy's cause at all. So, gosh.
So we're kind of the opposite in that sense that, like, I didn't like episode 1. You liked episode 1. I liked episode 2. You didn't like episode 2. Yeah, and then episode 3.
I was watching it, and once they got rid of Roku and made it Kyoshi, I was like, "Oh, John's gonna hate this."
No, I am upset with it, but they redeemed, not really, but for lack of a better word, just because like it was done in a kind of a badass way.
I get that. I mean,
because it was similar to Roku, so like in the sense of like how she just jumped in randomly and like it was a surprise to Zhao, and it was a surprise to Zhao here.
But
as well as
and that's why I'm like, why didn't they? Why I just don't understand why Zhao could have again kind of changing it in my mind. Zhao could have showed up attacking. They're winning. Aang's like, look, the only way they're gonna leave them alone is if we leave. Let's go. He leaves. Zhao follows, leaves him behind. Cool.
Well, that's what Katara says in the anime.
Exactly. That's what happens. Yeah. And then we could have seen the badass Roku stuff. The small thing they could have maybe changed is like where Heibai lived with the forest and all that. That could have been maybe like really close to Roku's island, or maybe not really close, but that they could have maybe had a temple or something there. And that's where Aang could have been learning. And then it could have been Roku who takes over, teaches Aang, tells Aang all these different things. The comet's coming, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, there's danger here. This town that you just saved from Heibai is now getting attacked by Zhao. I'll step in. And then you see Roku in the Avatar state being a badass, taking down Zhao in episode 4 or 5. And it's like, okay, we've kind of slowly gotten to this point now. We're roughly about halfway through the season, maybe a little bit high, maybe episode 5, episode 4. And then you could have seen a badass fight sequence with Roku. I just don't like the fact that they are taking Roku essentially out of the story and replacing it with Kyoshi, because that to me is them saying fans like they're trying to make the fans happy by leaning into what fans like instead of sticking to the story that we love.
Right.
And franchises do that all the time, where it's like we know better than the audience type of stuff, and it's like people love Kyoshi. It's like, let's redo Star Wars but make Boba Fett a main character. And it's like, no, we liked Boba Fett because he was in a couple badass sequences and he was kind of a mysterious character. He was badass. Don't make him, the third main character of the show, or the movie, and so that's kind of like what I kind of see here is like, I mean, I don't even think we were introduced to Kyoshi until season 2. We just knew about her because of the Kyoshi Warriors. And then the more we learn about her towards the end of the series, we're like, she's a badass.
Avatar Day is when you learn about Kyoshi.
Yeah.
And by the way, Cabbage Crew, yesterday was Avatar Day, the 19th anniversary of the OG anime that came out.
Is it 21st? 21st. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we're pretty much done with this review. But I mean, do you have any other last thoughts? Any things we missed?
We'll see how the Boomy episode happens and what happens there, and see if there's any redemption. Let's hope there is. But yeah, treading lightly.
Yeah, another thing I quickly noticed too is when they're not showing book 1, chapter 2. I would have really liked that. They haven't done that. Book 1, chapter 3, book 1, chapter 4. But you know what I mean? Like they just kind of show up and
they stick the theme song too.
Yeah, we're not getting that episode. Yeah, we're not going to get that ever. Well, that's the thing. They didn't do it in the first episode. They did a different monologue. Mm-hmm. So if we just stuck to the original monologue, it would have been so cool. It would be like the episode could start with a 3-minute cold open, and then it's like, boom, then you get the benders bending. You could have gotten guitars talking over, and then the title could have came up, and then it could have started. Every episode could have started that way, and that would have been kind of cool. You skip that too, but
here we are.
Here we are, man. I mean, I'm now really nervous about the show.
Well, we have to go all the way to episode 8.
Oh yeah, we will. So next episode is the King of Omashu, I believe, or maybe it's just called Omashu. Mm-hmm. It's just called Omashu. So check out our review for that. Comment below, guys.
And please subscribe.
Please subscribe. Comment below. Do you like the Kyoshi change? Do you mind the Kyoshi change? John does not mind as much. I thought you would. I do not like it at all. Is it better? Is it worse? Does it not really matter to you? Is it about the same? Let us know. I'm sure I'll debate you if it's the opposite.
And we still need, again, we need subscribers. We need
subscribe.
1,000 more cabbage subscribers.
We need some more cabbages. What are they called? Cabbage leeches. We need enough cabbage leeches. So when we try to go to a Mashu, we get kicked out.
That's right.
And this might be the episode where we meet the Cabbage Man in episode 3.
Let's do it.
Let's go. All right. Peace, guys.
All right. Peace, Cabbage Crew. Thanks for tuning in.